Today we are going to be talking about what it's like raising kids with two very different perspectives and 3 ways that we deal with our parenting differences. Roll the intro. Alright, today's vlog topic is kind of a fun one, and the way we arrived at it was by polling our Patreon supporters. Once a month we ask you guys on Patreon that support us what topic you want to hear about. Out of these 4 topics, how to deal with allowance or hate comments, dealing with 2 different styles of parenting, you guys chose this topic overwhelmingly. So thank you for your support on Patreon and your vote.
As you might imagine, Ben and I are really different from each other, and there's some really key examples of this. One of the things is how we deal with comfort. Well, I would say we both like comfort, but I want comfort. Like, I'm like, give it to me, yeah, don't. And then Ben's like, well, not too much. Like, okay, some, but not too much.
Short-term comfort has very little value for me.
Yeah. And so some examples are Ben would gladly go the whole summer without AC, and our summers get way up into the 90s a lot of days with high humidity.
Way to go into detail on that one. And my way's obviously better.
And high humidity, like right now. And for me, I appreciate aspects of that, but I am not that extreme. I am perfectly fine turning on the AC, and I actually will have times where I'm like, this is driving me crazy, I need some AC right now.
And that has an impact on how we raise our kids, because the same way I don't value short-term comfort for myself, I don't have a high value for short-term comfort for our kids, and Cammie does more.
The other thing we are very different on is leniency. I am super lenient. If the kids want something, they don't go to him. They come to me. And Ben is more the hard ass.
There's this joke where she would like tell Rainier to do something, and she's like, you better do this or I'm gonna give you a warning. That's the joke. Like,
and then another warning.
The consequence will never ever come. It's always one more chance.
And Ben's like, pow! No.
I'm like 0 chances.
Okay.
The final example of just one of the ways we're different is our level of engagement with the kids. I think I'm a bit more standoffish. Like, I think I prefer to engage and manage a little bit more from a distance and not get too much into the weeds as a rule of thumb. And I notice with you, like, you listen a lot more to everything. From our teenagers to our toddlers, I feel like you hear every word they say, and it impacts you more emotionally. And for me, I feel comfortable like parenting from a bit.
You're able to filter a lot more too, where sometimes you're listening, sometimes you're not listening. And for me, if someone's talking to me, I maybe don't want them to be talking to me a lot of times, but I can't just tune it out. So I kind of envy that.
So as you can imagine, these differences provide for a lot of complexity and conflict and sometimes frustration, but in the long run, we think benefit for how we parent our kids and live family life.
Yeah, it's not just a homogenous, oh, this is how we do parenting. They get 2 different people, 2 different perspectives. So these are 3 ways we deal with our parenting differences. The first one is we agree on a plan for the main issues.
Kind of like budgeting or creating a schedule. You know, we don't have to be the same to agree on a budget. We're very different people. We have different views on money and different priorities, but a budget is coming together, and you know, it takes a little bit of work to agree on something, but saying, hey, for this time period, we're gonna have this plan. And I think our parenting plan is very similar. It's not saying we're the same, it's not saying we agree on everything, but for the main issues that come up again and again and again, we say, hey, for this next time period, let's agree to try this together. I think that's going to be better than trying two separate ways when kids are coming to you to get one answer and then kids are coming to me to get another answer.
It definitely cuts down chaos and gives us more energy, I think, if we have a plan ahead of time.
Some plans that we've agreed to, which I would consider more big picture plans, are things like allowance, how much to pay our kids and why, and chores and things like that. Those are things we sit down together and we say, what do we want to do here? Because I think you're more likely to give, oh, hey, welcome back.
Hi.
You're more likely to give a lot more money, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm more likely to give less.
Well, and we have this issue right now, which we haven't talked about yet, and we pay our kids, our older kids, to babysit Rainier, and I haven't quite figured out how to pay, because there's Dove, who's 18, there's Seven, who's 14, there's Memory, who's 12.
You're like, they want money,
And
give them money.
So I'm like, okay, should I pay her more because she's older and da da da, and so I'm kind of, I haven't really sat down with him and come up with like, okay, what should we do here?
And on the flip side of allowance, agreeing on what kids pay for themselves, or in other words, what we won't pay for. If they want to go to a friend's house and pay for an Uber, do we pay for that or do they? Or if they want to go buy a bunch of junk food or go see a movie, does that come out of our expenses or theirs? We've also come up with plans for bedtimes or meal plans or cleanup plans and chores and all those types of things. Those things are reoccurring and they impact our family a lot. But things that have helped us with agreeing on a plan is to just keep in mind this doesn't have to be permanent. And we do a weekly meeting where we revisit any of these plans whenever we want. And we say, hey, we're gonna try this out for a week or a month and see how it goes, but we can change it, like that's okay, depending on how we see how it goes. Also, these plans, they don't need to cover everything. Like, our differences are still okay and good. We just kind of pick the areas that have the most friction. You know, it's just kind of like, one of the nice things about a budget is you make the decision once and then you don't have to make the decision every single time. You're just like, oh, is there enough money in the budget? Then you can buy it. It saves you all this energy from having to go through all these like values decisions.
Yeah.
And I think in a way it's kind of like that. We're just saying, okay, let's make the decision for a while. It's like, doesn't have to be perfect, but now we don't have to use all this energy to like think about it for a while.
The second thing we do is we try to promote conversation.
In our differences, it would be really easy to just like make fun of each other and kind of shut each other down or view each other as competition to get our way.
Or inferior, like one of us is more inferior.
Yeah. But I think one of the most valuable tools we can have is the desire and the ability to communicate that we want to listen to the other person and help to draw their opinion out so that we can continue to both bring our perspective to our parenting decisions. So that's why we want to use language and actions that actually promote conversation instead of just like, oh, I'm going to try and win with my way, which could shut you down,
right,
or vice versa. So one of the main ways we do this is just by giving each other the right to provide feedback, to listen, and to each be vocal about what it is that we see in the family, about, you know, our parenting decisions and the impact it has on kids, and even for myself. So for example, I might say to Cammie, hey, when you say this, I see that our child consistently responds in this way. And it's not really like a judgment. I think it's better if it doesn't come across as being a moral thing, or like it doesn't have to have any like, well, therefore, da da da. I'm really just offering an observation of what I see, because I think each person has a different perspective. So I could say, when you do this, I see it has this impact on the kids. Or I could say, when you do this, it has this impact on me.
Right.
And we both give each other permission to say that.
Yeah.
And we both kind of agree that we're gonna not give up and we're gonna keep on bringing our observation to the table consistently.
And there might be times where, for example, if Ben says that to me, I'm just not in a place that I can hear it. And so I try to say, okay, I need to talk about that later because I don't want to talk about that right now.
This very rarely works in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Usually this is best done in non-tension filled environments.
Yep.
The second thing that we do to promote conversation is to be careful about the language that we use. There's certain words that tend to shut conversation down right away.
Yeah, and a lot of times those words can indicate where a person's coming from. Like if you say, well, you should da-di-da-da, or you need to da-di-da-da, do this, it reveals a lot of times that that's the only way to do something and that it's more superior than whatever it's going on with the other person.
Yeah, so it's actually not just language. A lot of it is the idea behind the language.
Yeah, because you could use the right language, but still have a motivation of, you better do it my way, or...
Because if I say, well, you need to watch the kids this way, you know, there's no real conversation with that. It's kind of a conversation killer.
Yeah.
Her only response can be, well, no, I don't.
Yeah.
You know, versus if I say, hey, I think it would be valuable, or I would like it if you did this. Then she could say, oh, well, why do you like it? Or, well, I noticed this other thing. Have you thought about that?
Right.
And it just provides a better way for us to like move forward with both people's views.
But that has taken a lot of years to get to the point where I don't see my perspective, and that this isn't always the case, but I try not to see my perspective as superior to his. I try to see it as, oh, we're coming from different angles and they're both valuable angles.
So the type of language that we prefer, well, is a word like prefer. So we could say, well, I prefer this.
Yeah.
Or I would like this. And a lot of them have to do with I statements. Or I think, or I see this.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you need to, or this is this way, or should be this way.
Or this makes me feel this, which not you're making me feel this. It's because it's actually something that's coming from you. Yeah. The third way is we try to see our differences as an asset.
Yeah, with parenting our kids, I tend to have the more dominating personality, and a lot of times it feels like it'd be more convenient if Cammie and the kids just agreed with me. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's better for me to live in a world where other people are all like me. I actually don't really want that, even though it's more convenient in the short run. Yeah. What I feel like is more valuable to a family, what makes a family great, what makes a team great, is having different people that have different perspectives and different gifts and bring different things to the table. Mm-hmm. And in our little like parenting team, I guess you could call it, I think it's so cool that we have two different ways, two different angles through which we can see the same challenge together. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, I think it could be seen as twice as good, you know, almost.
Yeah.
Now, it is complicated.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make it sound like it's just easier.
And I think it's only twice as good as if we're both viewing each of our differences as, oh, this is something good to bring to the table.
Yeah, and there's sometimes when we like, I guess probably operate in like handing off certain time periods or issues or kids and say like, okay, you handle this or I handle this. So it could like trade off that way. But also it could be like, well, we're gonna both offer our perspective and come up with one solution. Mm-hmm. Either way though, our 6 kids are getting, you know, I would like to think the best of Ben and the best of Cammie, mm-hmm. you know, which is all we can ever really offer them, I think.
Yeah.
This also allows the kids to have more exposure to different styles of humanity and life and living, which I think is really cool because it's so easy for them to think, you know, some kids gravitate more towards one parent or the other, and if I was just more dominant, or if you were the only person in their life, then the kids that weren't like you would probably feel a little bit more alienated or not have the ability to see that there's other ways. Okay, that's it. I'm anxious to hear what you guys thought of this. Is there stuff that we didn't mention that you have seen is beneficial for you in dealing with parenting differences with your spouse or partner when it comes to your kids? I think this is a huge issue that I would love to see talked about, because I don't think it's better for us to keep on becoming more and more the same. Like, we want to preserve some of those differences. They're special. They're really cool.
Yep.
Thank you to everyone that voted on Patreon. If you would like to vote for next month's Patreon topic that we cover on this vlog, you can do it. All the links in the description. We'll see you guys next time.